We want to welcome our church in Victoria this morning for joining us in our first service, and also our church in Ghana for joining us. Let's wave at them and say, welcome to Calvary Worship Center. Amen. Please take your bulletin. We are beginning a new series on capacity, building capacity. So this series will take us all the way to Camp Hope. So let's get ready, bring out your sermon notes and follow along. I'd like to use, are we good? Matthew chapter 9, verse 36 and 38. I'm going to use this as a test the next 5 weeks. We are going to dwell on these verses, just break them verse by verse. Jesus said, but when he saw the multitude, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered, like sheep having no shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is truly great, plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray, build capacity. The harvest is awesome. God says souls are coming in. And like what we saw in the Muslim country broke my heart to see Muslims giving their life to Christ. They come with wearing their things on their head, and by the time they leave, they've taken them off. God is doing wonderful things. The harvest is ready. So what must we do? We need to pray. He said, pray that the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into the harvest. Then he said to disciples, the harvest is truly plentiful. Now, today I'm going to focus on the aspect of the harvest. So when he saw the multitude, verse 9, when he saw the multitude, he was moved with compassion for them. We are going to dwell on this verse today, and next week we'll take the next one. He was moved with compassion for them. We know that Jesus loved souls. We know that he loves the sinner. The Bible says in John chapter 3 verse 16, for God so loved the world. Today we are going to focus on passion for souls. How do we have the same passion that Jesus had for souls? When he saw the multitude, something stirred up within him. The Bible said he had compassion. Do you have the same compassion when you see sinners? We sing the song, break our heart, what breaks yours? That's this, that when you see sinners not knowing Jesus, do they break your heart? When he saw the multitude, the Bible says he had compassion for them. How do we love souls? How do we have compassion, a genuine love for sinners? Many times we don't as believers. And to understand this and to know this, I need to take you all the way back to Luke chapter 10, where Jesus talks about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Because in this verse, he teaches us how to love the sinner. For God so loved the world. We love our wives, we love our husband, we love our friends, but do we love the sinner? We need to understand the harvest. And when Jesus talks about the harvest, he's talking about souls. He's talking about lives that are not yet dedicated for Christ. He said, the harvest is great, but the laborers are few. How do we understand the harvest? How do we love people? And we are going to look at this passage a little bit more with some new eyes, and ask God to open our eyes to look at our neighbors in our neighborhood, our neighbors in schools, our neighbors at workplaces, and ask God at the end of this service to stir up our hearts for the lost. Amen. Oh, I'm only getting 10 people. I said to stir up our hearts for the lost. I wept so many times in Indonesia last week as I saw sinners give their life to Christ, weeping and crying and turning their lives. And we need to go the same. When you look at Luke chapter 10, really when Jesus talks about how to love, first he talks about how to love God with all your heart and how to love your neighbor. And somebody say, who is my neighbor? And basically what he's saying, the neighbor that God is asking to love is a sinner. It's lost. So there are three things I quickly want to understand about this idea of passion. How do I love? First, in the verse, Jesus talked about the course of the souls. Souls are heading somewhere. The journey, they are going somewhere. A man was journeying from Jerusalem to Jericho. We have to understand, then there were some things that came across this man, and they were very careless. They didn't care about the person. They didn't love the sinner. But then there was a Samaritan, Jesus said, who actually knew how to have a passion for souls. Today, we want to learn some principles, how that applies to us. And let's start with the first one. Every sinner is on a journey. And I want to look at Luke chapter 10, verse 30. Jesus begins this parable. It's one of the most famous parables. But in this parable, we understand the heart of the Father. He said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. The sinner that God is calling us to love, they are on a journey. In fact, all of us, we are on a journey. Either we are on the right journey or we're on the wrong journey. I don't know where you are. And it's up to you to decide or understand where you are in your journey. Every person is on a journey. This earth that we are on is temporal. We are passing through. You are born, you pass through. Eternity matters. At the end of your life, the journey that you take will lead you either to heaven or will take you to hell. If anybody tells you otherwise, they are deceiving you. There's only two ways, two places. You are going to go heaven with God or hell without God. And when you are on the wrong journey, it will take you to the wrong place. Which journey are you on? Every person is traveling somewhere. We are going somewhere. When we talk about you have a destiny, it means that you are going to a destination. You are either going to heaven. We are only here for a short while. Like you always hear me say, in about 40 years, most of these people in this room will not be alive. You will have ended your journey. How you live your life here on earth will determine where you spend the rest of eternity. Am I preaching the gospel? These days, people don't preach this anymore. Most of the gospel is trying to help us to focus here. But we need to remind ourselves that we are only here for a short while. The Bible says we are pilgrims and we are sojourners, and this is not our home. The Bible talks about Abraham look for a better city. We are going somewhere, so please don't unpack all your bags. We are not here too long. Sometimes it looks like we are going to be here too long. We are not here too long. 30, 40 years, we are gone. Somebody is on a journey. All of us were on a journey. But the problem is that the Bible said this man was going on the wrong journey. How do I know that? He was going from Jerusalem to Jericho. Jerusalem is where God dwells. It's where the presence of God is. Everybody is going from Jericho to Jerusalem. This man was going the opposite direction. Your neighbors are going the opposite direction. The people that you meet at your workplaces, they are going on the opposite direction. You need to understand the harvest. You need to understand the sinner that God is called us to love. There are two ways. They are on the wrong journey or right way. Let's talk about the right journey. The right way. When you're on this right way, like most of you in this room are, you will find forgiveness in this way. Amen? Your sins are forgiven. The burden, I always say that mankind's greatest need is for forgiveness. When you don't experience forgiveness, then you are broken, you are empty, you carry a load, and you know there is something missing. There's a cavity in your soul. When you follow that road, you experience true forgiveness. You experience fulfillment. Your soul is not always wrestling. There's a spirit of discontent. Some of you are hearing my voice this morning. You know something is missing. Say, Pastor, why am I not happy? I've got everything, and something is missing. I'm discontent. I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got a nice car. I've got a nice home, but something is missing. You're on the wrong path. Because when you follow the right path, your soul will be fulfilled. Jesus says, I came to give life and give life more abundantly. He said, my peace I give you, such not as the world giveth. In this world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. Jesus talks about joy. We experience joy in him. There's a spirit of contentment when you are following Jesus. It doesn't mean that you not go through trials and tribulation. You go through trials and tribulation with peace and with joy. You don't think about committing suicide when your boyfriend leaves you. Because Jesus is more important to you than your boyfriend. Or am I stepping on somebody's foot? Let me know so that I can step on it harder. Jesus is your life. Paul says, for me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. It's your life. Say, I'm the way, the truth. He's your life. No, your job is not even your life. If you lose your job, if you lose everything, it's not the end of life. Jesus is your life. He's the center of your being. In him we move and have our being. When Jesus is in the center of your soul, you find fulfillment, and you can wake up in the morning and you can truly say, this is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And above all, when you experience forgiveness, you experience fulfillment, you also experience a future. You're going somewhere. He says, in my Father's house are many mansions. You may never own an apartment, but there's a mansion waiting for you. He said, if it were not so, I would have told you, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Heaven is our final destination. We are on our journey, but we are going somewhere. And never forget that. Whenever you are going through dark times and difficult situations, remember you are on a journey. Every one of us is on a journey. And the future is bright. The future is beautiful. Because I'm not going to spend 50 years in heaven, 100 years in heaven, 500 years in heaven. I'm going to spend eternity. I'm looking forward to heaven. These days, preachers have stopped preaching about heaven. I don't want to live here on earth too long. It's too much confusion, too much darkness, too much problems, pain. I want to go home. I want to go home. Paul, at the end of his life, he said, I have fought the good fight. I have kept the faith. I have finished the race. Now it's late for me. He's thinking about heaven. What am I saying? I'm saying to you this morning, you need to have heaven on your minds all the time. That will give you perspective. That will change the way you look at. When you're in the right way, there's a future for you. When people see you and say, why are you so happy? He said, I have a future. I'm going home very soon. Even if they say you get cancer, you've got something, and they cannot help you, and they've prayed for you, it's still not the end of your life. It's just a passage. What is life? The Bible says, just like a flower, it comes and it's gone. The Bible says, just like a vapor, you see it and it's gone. Life is short. Even if you live up to 100 years, it's still short compared to eternity. We're on a journey, and I never want you to forget that. It changes the way you look at life. Even if you get a speeding ticket, it changes. So just a speeding ticket. I am on a journey. Heaven is my home. But when you're on the right way, when you're on the wrong way, this is what happens to you. On the wrong way, it's something else. The Bible says it's wasted life. You're going through life in circles. You are chasing after the wind. In North America, it's even worse. We are chasing after material things. We are chasing after things to help us fulfill our deep longings. And the more we chase after them, the more we realize that we are still empty. Materialism is at its highest peak in North America. And yet we are the most miserable, most unhappy people on earth. Why? Because God never created us in a way that material things will fulfill our needs. We live our life with wasted life. The Bible talks about the prodigal son. He left home and went on the wrong way, and he wasted his life. Some of you, you are here, your life is being wasted. You are 20 years old, you are 15 years old, you are 30 years old, you are 50 years old. How are you living your life? I was talking to somebody the other day, and we're talking about bucket list. He said, and he was asking me, what is on your bucket list? I said, to get to heaven. He was very surprised. He was thinking maybe I want to say maybe to go to Hawaii or Bali or what. Those are very nice places. If you can get to those places, go and enjoy them. But my bucket list is to get to heaven. Number one. Number two is to serve God, love souls, and love God with all my heart. Number two. And number three, give away much of my possession as much as possible so that I will have treasures in heaven. I have 7 bucket lists I want to fulfill before I kick the bucket. My bucket list has nothing to do with whether I drive a sports car. No. Those are temporal. And people are living their life wasted. Now, don't get me wrong. Those are great things. If you can enjoy them. But those are not your life. Wasted life, the wrong way, is a wounded life. Because these things are not meant to bring you joy. They actually meant bring you pain and emptiness. And wonder, why am I so broken? Because you're on the wrong way. The Bible says this man, when he took the wrong way, he was attacked by thieves. That's what happens on the wrong way. You get attacked. He was attacked by thieves. They beat him up and they left him for dead. Jesus said anybody on that journey will be beaten, will be kicked, and will be left for dead. Now, I want you to understand the sinner that God is sending us to. They are wounded. Yes. They may look happy, but they are wounded. They may look like they've got it all together. They may party and go to nightclubs and what have you on Saturday night, but they are wounded. These are wounded dead. In fact, the Bible said they are half dead. That wrong way will always produce woundedness. And eventually it will produce a woeful life. People are going to hell. I know it's not a very popular message. Do you know, by the way, Jesus talks more about hell than he talks about heaven? Because it's not a pretty place. He said it's not the desire of the Father, anybody to go in there. He said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. It's never the intention of the Father anybody should perish. He wants us to come to be translated from death unto life. But the path that we are on will eventually lead you to a very dangerous destination. That is a course. That's a journey. Traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. And I have been there. I have stood in that road. It's a very dangerous place. It goes through the mountains. And during the time of Jesus, thieves actually, in reality, will attack people when they are going from Jerusalem to Jericho. And that is the life of the sinner. Then the second thing the Bible talks about, in Matthew 7, watch this. Jesus encourages us to take the right route. It's to enter by the narrow gate. You are on a journey. Go through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction. And there are many who go in by it. Do you understand what Jesus is saying? There are more people going the wrong way than there are those on the right way. That is why our gospel has become urgent. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, there are few who find it. Everybody wants the broad way. Everybody wants the broad way. Because narrow way, it comes with a cost. When you become a Christian, the Bible expects you to give up everything to follow me. Take up your cross. And many people will say, it's not for me. The Bible talks about a rich man comes to Jesus, and he knew there was something. He said, what am I missing? What am I missing? Jesus said, just sell everything you have. And he left sorrowfully. The cost was too much. What about you? Where are you? What is it that you need to give up so you can truly follow your Father and your Lord? Amen. See, the way God created you, he created you with a desire, with a passion to love him. And until you come to that place, you are never going to be fulfilled. You're never going to experience true joy until you surrender your life to him. Preaching. Am I saying something? Yes. Then let's look at the carelessness of the saints. So this man is wounded, is half dead, is on the wrong way. And the Bible talks about it in Luke chapter 10. Watch this. Now, by chance. Now, it's very important. I spent almost the whole night looking at the word by chance. In other words, these believers don't even have a plan to reach the lost. They just stumbled into the sinners by chance. It's not like they were looking for them. Next week, I'll be talking about looking for the lost sheep, looking for the lost silver, and looking for the lost what? Son. This one, we're not looking for nobody. They just stumble into sinners. And sometimes we do. Sometimes we stumble into sinners. But what do we do? And when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. Likewise, a Levite, when he arrived at the place, came and looked, passed by on the other side. Yes. Now, what did Jesus say? Jesus is saying, these are the attitude of believers. That's right. I need to understand the heart of the Father. Most of us, we just pass by on the other side. We see sinners all the time. They are wounded. We know it. Why are we not doing something about it? Number one, because unfortunately we are insensitive. We don't understand the plight of the wounded person. We don't understand the wounds that they are going through, the anguish that they are experiencing. This man was physically wounded. He was bleeding, but the Levites, the priests, were insensitive. They were emotionally wounded. They've been abandoned and left for dead. The people that you see on the sky train all the time, they are wounded. They are aching. They are in pain. Jesus said, I need to understand the harvest. Your neighbor next door is wounded. They are looking for something to heal their wounds. Spiritually, they are wounded. They are wounded physically, emotionally, spiritually. There's a sense of emptiness. There's a vacuum in their soul. And we need, as believers, to understand the plight of the sinner so that we can be sensitive to the needs. Yes. That's all that Jesus is saying. How do I love the sinner? He said, first of all, let me tell you a story. Most of us don't care. Including myself, we don't care. We are not praying for sinners. We are not looking for opportunities. We don't have a burden for sinners. We are not weeping over sinners. The Bible says when Jesus came over Jerusalem, he wept over the city. In other words, our priorities are different. When we weep on stupid things. Pastor, I lost my iPhone. My only iPhone. I left it in the sky trail. My life is coming to an end. Shut up. When souls are dying, you are crying over an iPhone. iPhone 8. What about iPhone 20? The things that breaks our heart are frivolous things. The things that make us weep are frivolous things. We need to pray and cry out to God and say, God, break my heart for what breaks yours. Wept over the city. We need to start weeping over sinners. Cry for their plight and understand where they are going. Church of God, we need to wake up. People are going to hell every day, every second. And God is saying the harvest is great. Why is it great? Because many are on the Broadway. They need to come home. But the laborers are few. Only few people are actually ready. Because we are too busy. The priest was too busy. He needs to get to church. The Levites, they are too busy. Everything but sinners. And Jesus is saying, do you get this picture? We are going on the other side. You and I all the time. We need to start praying. The Bible says, where, when you put on the armor, where the preparation of the gospel. Meaning every day you say, God, give me a sinner. Should be part of your prayer. When you wake up in the morning, say, God, open a door for me. Bring somebody in my life that can share the gospel. You'll be amazed how God answers that prayer. If you're not ready, don't pray it, because God will. I remember when I first came here, I was minding my own business. I took a bus. I was having a bad day. I didn't want to talk to anybody. So when I took the bus, I went all the way to the back. just to make sure that I don't run across those people. You know, one of those people, they just come and they just chatty. And I wasn't in the mood to chat. So I went to the corner and I gave this look to say, stay away. Unfortunately, this person came all the way to the back and sat beside me. Hello? I said, hello. And I kept reading. He said, what are you reading? I said, I don't even know. I've been trying to tell the person, I don't want to talk. And unfortunately, I was reading the theological book. Something about God, something. He said, oh, I'm interested in God. I'm like, oh, no. You are interested in God, but I'm not ready to talk to you about God. Just leave me alone. And he started to talk. You see, my life is this and my life is that. And I was just listening, but I was just praying that he would just stop and go. Do you know anybody that can help me find Jesus? And I am a pastor in a bus. So I say, all right. Jesus, I will do it. Now listen to this. This person gave his life to Christ and became one of the first elders of this church. And yet, I was so resistant. At one point, I was sweating. The guy looked at me and said, why are you sweating? I was like a Jonah, ran away from God. I don't want this person to even know that I'm a Christian, even worse, a pastor. And many of us, we are like that. We are like these secret disciples that we don't even want people to know, even when they are standing right in front of us, saying, I need help. They're like, hey, this is my pastor's number. He's always ready. Just call him. What about you? The harvest is ready. Why are we so insensitive? We are looking at the wounded and we're always passing by. In other words, you don't even have to go looking after them. They will come to you. Nicodemus come looking for Jesus. Zacchaeus climbed the tree looking for Jesus. People are searching. And they are searching the wrong places, on the internet, on places, other religions. People are trying to find some source of fulfillment. And God is saying we cannot continue to be insensitive. Or sometimes we are not just insensitive, we are just indifferent. We don't really care. We don't really care what happens to them. Now, this man was half dead. In the moment, he could be dead. And these people didn't care. I know you're going to die, but I'm just going on my journey. Have you really thought about it, my friends? Today, I want to provoke you a bit. Is that okay? Yes. I'm getting 10 people. Okay. Yes. Let me do it again. Today, I want to provoke you a bit. Yes. Sometimes we get too comfortable with other gospels. We need to understand the plight of sinners, the destination. This man on his way to eternal death. Jesus gave a parable. He said there was a certain rich man, he dies, and a poor man, he dies, and this rich man ended up in hell, and the fire was burning, and he was crying out, please send somebody. Send somebody to tell them hell is real. Now, Jesus telling this story. And Jesus said, the prophets are there. There are people preaching the gospel. He said, no. I heard them, but if you send somebody from the dead, maybe they will hear. And as I speak right now, there are people crying out to say, somebody please reach my family. Somebody please reach my wife, reach my uncle, reach, you are a neighbor to them. Please tell them what you have experienced. Please, You are mowing your grass and the neighbor comes around and you start talking about mowing machines. Please turn it into the gospel. Say, God, I don't know why my neighbor is here talking about mowing machines. But mowing machines will break and they will destroy. But what about eternity? Say, God, give me wisdom. Give me, how do I build a bridge to share the gospel with somebody? That's all that you need to pray. Say, God, give me an opportunity. That's all I'm asking you to do today. Is there somebody today that needs to hear the gospel? Lord, I don't want to be insensitive. I don't want to be indifferent. Please, Lord, lead me to somebody or bring somebody in my life, and I promise I will share the gospel. Just pray that prayer every morning and leave the rest to God. One of the things that I'm going to talk about next week is that sinners are more ready than you think. When you look at them, you think that, they don't want to hear the gospel, that, this is not for me, no. When you saw Paul on the road to Damascus, you would think that this guy is never going to be a candidate for the gospel. Amen. You can never look at the woman at the well and say, this woman is not ready for the gospel. But at the end of the day, they all turned their life to Christ and became followers of Jesus Christ. People are more ready than you think. You can't look at the outside. When you saw me before I became a Christian, I didn't want to hear anything about church. I didn't want to hear anything about Christ. But God, the gospel, was a powerful tool. When I hear the gospel, it broke my heart, removed my defenses, and I turned my life to Christ. People are more powerful, are more ready than you think because the gospel is powerful. It will break down their defenses. It will begin to challenge their heart. It will begin to break their souls. Why do you think every Sunday people come forward here weeping and crying? Not because of my accent or something. It's because of the gospel. That's right. Because the Bible says it's like a two-edged sword, piercing asunder body, soul, and spirit. Yes. That is why Paul says, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it's a power of God unto salvation to the Jews first and then to the Gentiles. It's a power of God. Just say, God, give me the opportunity. Can you pray that prayer? Yes. That's all you need to. Say, God, I'm in your hands today. If somebody needs to hear the gospel, may our path cross. Just pray that simple prayer. I remember one day I was caught. I wasn't really speeding. I wasn't speeding, but I was. It was a bit, it was speedy, but not speeding. I mean, I didn't break it. I was just 10 kilometers over, which is sometimes allowed. Why are you looking at me like a sinner? You all do that? So I was stopped by the police officer, and he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to church. Yeah. And you know what he said to me? He said, I'm going to write you a ticket for $120, but I won't. Take that $120 and put it in an offering basket. It's a police officer. I said, are you a Christian? He said, no, I love God's people, and I started to share the gospel. He still didn't let me off the hook, but I shared the gospel. It was an opportunity. Opportunity to tell a police officer, I'm going somewhere. I've broken the law, but I'm going somewhere. He said, yeah, I've heard about that church. I would like to come check it out. We are not perfect, but we're on a journey. God will bring you opportunities in places that somebody was telling me the other day. They were just dancing in a nightclub, dancing. And you approach this guy, and he said, there's something funny about you, even the way you dance. Say, are you a Christian? The guy said, yeah, somehow. Even in a nightclub, opportunity. The guy said, I've always been interested in church. He said, oh, let's talk about it another time. He said, no, seriously. I'm really feeling empty. He said, all right, come with me. Share the gospel with this guy. And you know what the guy said to him? He said, if this is true, what are you doing here? And the person actually came to church. And he said, one of your members I met in the nightclub told me about your church. And when I came in, I was amazed. And I said, I'm not going back to the nightclub. I'm going to tell him, you should stop going there. Yes. Even in the midst of the wrong place, God is still giving you opportunity. That's true. It's not what happened to Jonah. Even in his rebellion, somebody come and wake him up and say, pray to your God. He said, no, I don't want to. He said, talk to your God. Don't you have a God? That's an opportunity for Jonah to say, yeah, I have a God. He's very powerful. I'm running away from him. Different. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 talks, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. Now Paul is saying, we are going somewhere. It's a terrible place. It said, therefore, knowing the terror of the Lord, we pursue men. When you have a burden for eternity and understand the reality of heaven and hell, you cannot be indifferent. He said, therefore, knowing the terror of the Lord, we pursued men. Ezekiel chapter 3 verse 18. You know what it says? When I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life. What does the Bible say? That same man shall die in his iniquity, by his blood I'll require from your hand. In other words, when you see a man dying and going to hell and you don't do anything about it, God said you'll be responsible for his death. I don't want to be responsible for my neighbors. Because I believe, according to Acts chapter 17, God positioned and plants us in neighborhood for the gospel's sake. That's right. You are where you are, not because the apartment is cheap. It's because God wanted to be a light, a salt, and a fisherman. The Bible says he has planted us in different places and locations so that people will come to know the Lord. We want to say, God, why have you planted me with all these neighbors? Is there a way I can share the gospel? Is there a way I can extend your love? In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 16, Paul says, for if I preach the gospel, I have nothing to boast of, for necessity is laid upon me. Yes, woe is me if I preach the gospel. In other words, you cannot continue to be insensitive and continue to be indifferent. As brothers and sisters, as souls of God, let me challenge you this afternoon. We got to pray and say, God, break my heart for what breaks yours. It's not an option. We need to start praying. If you truly believe in eternity and the eternal damnation of people, then you have to start praying and say, God, you so love the world. I meet people and say, Pastor, just talk about love. Just talk about love. Just talk about, I say, yeah. In the same passage that God so loved the world, it talks about not perishing. Because love that is refused will lead to eternal damnation. We need to warn people. Let me finish up. So he talks about these careless saints. They were insensitive. They were indifferent. They didn't care. Then he said, then there was this man, a Samaritan, a nobody. People that you don't even want them to make the star of the story. And he says in chapter 10, verse 33, but a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was. He didn't stumble over him by chance. He made an effort to go to this person. The first thing every one of us we need to do, number one, I want you to write it down, make connections. Don't be insensitive to the sinner, but rather make connections. Say, God, how do I build bridges? How do I build a bridge? How do I reach this person? Now, I'm not saying any person you see, say, become Christian, become born again. No. Build bridges. Especially in North America, that works better. Build bridges. When Jesus met this woman at the well, he didn't just say, hey, are you born again? You are going to hell. No. He said, give me water to drink. He said, I don't have water. He said, I can give you water that you not thirst again. Build bridges. He said, give me this water. I said, go bring me your husband. He said, I have no husband. He said, because you have 5 husbands, and the one you are staying with is not. He said, how do you know you are the prophet? And then Jesus began to open up. Build bridges. Love them. In fact, when you are mowing your grass, mow your neighbors. Somebody say, you don't know my neighbors. They are wicked and awful. You can't even step on their lawn. They will call the police. Just mow it. Show acts of kindness. Make connection. When they say, what a beautiful day, I say, I know, but I'm looking for a better day. Say, what better day are you looking for? The day that Jesus Christ would appear in the sky. It will be better than a sunny day in Vancouver. Build bridges. Love them. Care for them. Something happens to them, a baby or a death, write a note to say, we are grieving with you. You know, something. Find a way. Say, God, help me build bridges. Philip joined the Ethiopian eunuch on the chariot and said, do you understand what you're reading? He said, no. And they built bridges. Lord, how do I build bridges with my neighbors, people at workplaces, people I see, even the male person? Lord, help me to build bridges. Make connection. Jesus built connection with Zacchaeus. He said, Zacchaeus, I want to come to your house. To do what? Not to preach the gospel. I want to come and eat. Let's have dinner. Let's have a barbecue. Zacchaeus said, sure, by all means come. And Jesus actually went and had barbecue with Jesus, with Zacchaeus. They were just in the middle of eating. He never even opened his mouth, and Zacchaeus just started confessing his sins. Sometimes connection is all that you need. Just love the sinner. Begin with love. Sometimes we are anxious to share the gospel without passion. Passion must come first. Make connection. Are you still with me? Number 2, show compassion. The word compassion is actually a Latin word composed of 2 words. Com, which means with, and passion, which means suffering. When the Bible talks about compassion, it simply means to enter into the suffering of another and make it your own. That's what it means. Now, when you feel the person's pain, that's what Jesus, when he saw the multitude, he had compassion. Compassion. He felt their pain. He felt their woundedness. He felt their abandonment. He felt their rejection. He felt their eternity. He felt it. And we must feel it. We must have compassion with suffering. The word needs loss and loss of compassion. Love. I came across a famous quote from St. Francis of Assisi. He said, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. Now, I want you to notice something. Do you realize that in this parable, the man never shared the gospel? Do you realize that? There was not even 4 spiritual laws. It was all love in action. Sometimes we are too anxious. Show me your love first. Show me that you truly care for me and you have bowels of message for me. And they will notice something about you. They will realize there's something special about you. They will realize there's something different about you. Just reach out. Jesus is saying to love sinners really means that to have compassion over them. And then finally, the Bible talks about not only the compassion, it talks about the care. In verse 34, he says, he went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring oil and wine, and he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. Took care of him. What picture is Jesus creating? It's a picture of how to love sinners. Took care of him. And it doesn't end there. There was a cost to it. There was a cost to it. The final verse, verse 35 says, on the next day when he was departed, he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper and said to him, take care of him. Whatever more you spend, when I come back, I'll repay. What is Jesus saying? There's a cost. There's a cost to reaching the dead. Of course, there's a financial cost to do missions, to reach the lost. But there's also a cost of time, even emotional cost. Sometimes people may reject you. Sometimes people may don't want to hear. There's a cost to pay. But we must be ready to pay. It's worth it. Because we don't know who is ready. Jesus said that the fields are white. In other words, people are more ready than you think. And this is how Jesus ends this story. I want to close with verse 36. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. This parable is all about mercy and compassion. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. That's it. If you never heard anything I've said this morning, go and do likewise. Go and do likewise. You, let's go. What is likewise? Go and love the sinner. Pray. I need to bow your head for a moment, and I need you to wrestle with God. Now, don't play games, don't play show. This is not a religious activity. I really want you to mean it. He said, God, I have not cared for the sinner. I don't really care about them. In fact, some of them are very annoying. But I need you to give me your heart for sinners. Let me ask you, when was the last time you led somebody to Christ? Or you shared the love of God with somebody? When was the last time you did? But that is our divine mandate as believers. And today, I want to challenge you to look at sinners with a whole new perspective. Ask God to touch your heart. Ask God to give you opportunities. Ask God, I want you to be the light Tell God, I want to be the salt. Lord, I want to take the hook and go fishing. You've called me to be a fisherman, a fisherwoman. Just pray this simple prayer. This will take you the next step in your Christian journey to become witnesses of Christ.